Here we go, 1-1. Hit well right field, deep, looking up. That baby's gone. Julio Rodriguez.
And look at that. That was Julio's second home run of the game, which eventually led to the Mariners coming back to win 9-7, which I guess that tie made some kind of inspiration. And Julio Rodriguez, he really played well today. Not only did he give 2 home runs for the Mariners, but he also gave me 2 home runs for my fantasy team. And thanks in part to that, I am completely dominating this guy as if I need to win, some other guy to lose because I'm tied for a playoff spot. Besides the point, let's look at these fools. They've already commented before we even started. We got Sleepy going, Bet Rooftop was already getting a negative video ready, but we came back to win. I was going to be here, negative or positive. Trident and I already planned it anyway.
I had a video ready. I'll be honest.
Yeah, he did. He really did. Let's celebrate. The Mariners and Astros won. I can't celebrate Astros winning. Sorry, buddy.
I will say the Astros are close to passing the Rangers. So, I mean, at this point.
Which you don't want because Texas, I think, is more vulnerable to a division than the Houston Astros are. But anyways, the Mariners came back and won, and it seemed early in the game, I was thinking, man, they really must have felt emotionally devastated after Colton Wong took the lead yesterday, only to watch the bullpen completely blow it. And some of you may have saw me on Twitter, including the Trident, where I was just railing Scott's service all night long, and some dude named Shane was like, "You're insane. How could you say that?" And oh my gosh, we just went back and forth. I was trolling other Root Sports people, including Jen Mueller. Was like, yes, this is Scott Service's fault because he put in Paul Sewald. No, he put in Andres Munoz over Paul Sewald. Yeah, but he pitched 3 of the last 4 days. Well, you shouldn't have pitched him on Sunday. And then you made him pitch anyway, and then you made him pitch today. But besides the point, Mariners won the game. Hopefully this is the inspire. No, it won't be. This will be the back and forth seesaw thing that they're going to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, and it's kind of been what they've done. Great win. I mean, a great win and a great comeback. So certainly I'm very happy. I mean, every time this team, and I was ready to do, I almost did a video in the middle of the game when they were down 4-0 going, this team's not doing it. They're done. It's not happening. I don't think they're terrible, but it's just not happening. They're 500. Just forget the playoffs. It's over. And then they come back and win, and they get my hopes back up. And we were talking before we jumped on that, I mean, this team probably should be on a 6-game winning streak right now. And I'm certainly not one to – I've been more defensive of Scott and just some of the decisions. But even I did yesterday, if you watch my video, I was very critical. I thought I was getting too cute yesterday with the Munoz-Sewald switch. I think you go with what's working, and Munoz hasn't quite been as dominant this year.
Last year. That injury still must be doing something to him.
Yeah. Last year, maybe I'm fine with that, but this year, and then in the Toronto game, I thought it was actually, and I'm not here to just turn this into a bash Scott fest, but I thought it was one of his worst managed games. I thought there was a lot of letting Colton Wong bat in the 6th inning. I thought was dumb. He goes to Paul down 4-3, which is fine. But if you're going to use Paul, then why not go to Paul in the 7th inning against Toronto in a tie game? If you're going to use him in a non-save situation, then use him in the tighter.
Yeah, don't use him when it's pointless. And
why use him in a 4-3 game if you're not going to use him in? But anyways, great win. I shouldn't be.
Yeah, and we wanted to go over it, but before we do. Look at those numbers. 696 subs. Help me get – wait, no, not 696. What am I doing to myself? I'm lying to you guys. Make that 596 subs. Get me to 600 by the end of the show. And most importantly, get me to 1,000 so I can start making quarters. So I can use the quarters to play Little Miss Pac-Man or, I don't know, some arcade game somewhere. Come on, get me some quarters at least. Anyways, let's go over the summary. I'm going to cover the Twins portion of the scoring. We got the Trident that's going to cover the Mariners portion of the scoring. And once we get to where it's in the middle of the innings, I'm going to have my little thing on Gabe Spire being pulled after 1 inning after 3 strikeouts. But let's go over the Twins. First, it starts with Julian He triples down to left center field where Carlos Correa scores, who tends to be the Mariner killer. Max Kepler singles to right field. Jillian scores. Wallner homers to right field, and Max Kepler scores, which made it 4-0. Now, what happened in the second inning?
Well, we got, I guess, moving Julio to the fifth spot was the key. Let me pull it up here. As Julio Rodriguez homered with one out in the top of the second to get the Mariners on board 4-1. We'll get into Julio a little bit too later on, but that was good to see. Turned on, looked like a high two-seamer, pretty misplaced pitch from Lopez. Actually, looked like the Mariners might get a little rally going because Julio homered, and then Mike Ford walked with one out, and 4-1, runner at first, one out. Ty France stepped up and grounded into a double play, and then the Twins responded.
They did respond in not so long after in the third, bottom of the third. We got Castro tripling down the right field, and Max Kepler scored. And then what happened after that? It was something very special.
It was the first major league home run for Mr. Cade Marlowe, who had a great game, by the way. I know Julio will be the focus, and rightfully so. But Cade Marlowe was fantastic today. He hits his first major league home run in the top of the fifth inning, and it went to left center, so he went the other way with it. Put a pretty good jolt on the ball and cut the lead to 5-2.
And he did redeem himself, considering that he had a boneheaded oopsie fielding play earlier in the game.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. He took a very odd route on the Julian. Who that guy, by the way, I swear the Mariners can just not get out at all. I've never seen a guy dominate a team as much as that Julian guy has done it. But yeah, he took a weird route on the ball that I thought was catchable. But and kind of opened the floodgates in the first inning. It would have been a tough play, but definitely took a very odd route on it, I thought. But he redeemed himself.
He really did. Got on base as well. And now bottom of the sixth, we got Solano. Oh, here was the issue I had. So Gabe Spire he took over for the struggling George Kirby, which our starters have uncharacteristically have been a little bit streaky lately, which nobody really wants to admit because everyone just looks at the ERA. As long as below 4, they'll say it's godly. But anyways, Gabe Spire came in. He struck out 3 batters in a row and then brought in, Campbell. It was like Campbell, and then immediately gave up a sacrifice fly. And I was thinking at that time, when your starting pitching of George Kirby didn't really do George Kirby things, I was thinking if Spire had a very impressive inning, I was thinking he should have gotten at least maybe one more inning. And yes, if it didn't work out, I would have been like, okay, fine. But at least Scott Service tried something different that I would have appreciated, because I don't want to be the hypocrite going, oh, well, Scott Service. Oh, yeah, Scott Service, you should put Gabe Spire in. Oh, and if he gave up runs, it'd be like, oh, you shouldn't have done it. No, I would have still stuck to it and say, no, that was a good decision. But anyways, he put in that guy. I don't even know his name. Isaiah Campbell gave up that run, and I was thinking that's where I thought it was a little bit too cute. Should have gave him one more inning because we got to save the bullpen because they're a little bit burned out. And then take it the rest of the way, at least until the 9th inning. What happened after Solano?
Yeah, I will add too. I've someone that's kind of defended Scott more so certainly probably than Rooftop has. I agree with especially against this Twins lineup that is so lefty heavy. I guess I combined the two words there. I think with the bullpen, then it wouldn't have been a bad idea to send Spire out there for a second inning as well. If you're going to do it against this lineup. But first, let's get to the top of the 8th actually, because 6-2, top of the 8th, and after a couple innings where JP led off with a double in the 6th. They didn't do anything. In the top of the 7th, Ty singles and Cade Marlowe doubles, 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs. They don't score. The game's over. It's 6-2, top of the 8th. They're not going to score. The Twins have one of the best closers in baseball in Duran. They just got to get 3 outs to get to him. And then the top of the 8th happens. First of all, there's no Duran or anything. Obviously not going to come to the 8th. It's Moran, not Moran. Moran comes in. JP walks. Gino walks. So 1st and 2nd, starting to think maybe we got something here. You never know. And then Cal Raleigh doubles to score JP. Gino's at 3rd, 2nd and 3rd. Teoscar grounds out, and he hit that ball pretty hard. I won't get into Teo too much for that. I thought that was pegged for center field. Made it 6-4, and then probably his biggest hit of the season, maybe. Julio Rodriguez.
Hold that thought. I got to do this.
Here we go, 1-1. Hit well right field, deep. Looking up, that baby's gone.
Julio's first multi-home run game of the season. We got clutch Julio. Fernando, I agree. Wong's bunt, we'll get to that too. But yeah, very clutch to see. And that tied the game up. That was it then in the top of the 8th. Then we get a great Matt Brash inning in the bottom of the 8th. Then we get to the top of the 9th. And little things that start rallies. Cade Marlowe works a really solid walk. Steals set flick. I do agree with you, but I got to celebrate the win. We got to enjoy it. Steals second base. Colton Wong lays down a fantastic bunt. So we've got clutch Colton the last 2 games here. He should have been the hero last night. And he lays down.
I wonder how Colton felt last night. If I were him, I'd have been like, yo, Andres, what the bleep?
His one shining moment as a Mariner was taken away.
It's already taken away. Yep. The one time he does something other than the Yankees game. The fact that we remember his greatest moments as a Mariner really shows how much he's been struggling this year.
4 of them. Actually, I don't think it's 4. I think it's 3. and then the 2. But he singles on a great bunt by Colton Wong there. JP's hit by a pitch. Looks like he was a little banged up, so we'll see. So then bases loaded, nobody out, which is the Mariners' kryptonite, at least in the late innings of games. But Gino's ground ball just finds the fair area down the line for a double. Teo adds a sac fly. 9-6 Mariners going to the bottom of the 9th. And then what happens?
And then Michael Taylor hit a home run. And I was thinking when I was on the way to the casino, because as soon as Eugenio Suarez hit that RBI, 2 RBIs, I immediately jumped in my car and was going to put money on the Twins to win. I would have done it yesterday and made like 70-something, $50-something, but I was stuck at work, and in Washington, online gambling sports is still illegal, or not even, can't even do it. But this time I was in the car, heard a home run. I was like, okay, I really got to get down there before it's too late. And then by the time it was 2 outs, I turned my car around and went home, and then texted this guy going, yep, we're going to do the show at 8 o'clock.
Yep. It was just too late to get that last. You needed it yesterday.
I really did. It hurts. I am $50 short, and well, I would have been I would have lost $9 today, but whatever. But other than that, the Mariners won, and Paul Sewald, kudos to him. Other than the fact he gave up a run, but when he's already been taxed for the last few days, it really shouldn't be surprising.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Paul always seems to give up that, like when he has a 3-run lead, gives up that 1 run or 2 to kind of make it more interesting. But he locks it out. I agree, Sleepy. A great win. It's a shame because not a shame, but like I really feel like they should have be on a 6-game winning streak right now. But you know what? I will say this: they won the last series against Toronto, should have swept, but they won the series, and they do have a chance to win this series tomorrow. I mean, that's good. That is a good thing.
Got to win tomorrow, which is why I'm heading to the casino tomorrow morning to put money on the Twins, even though it's Twins are favorited, which means you won't win as much. But could I really see the Mariners winning 2 of 3 in Minnesota? I know I'm a negative Nancy, but I don't see it.
The team's done that to us this year. I mean, that's every time we get a little bit, like I did my post game from the hotel after the Saturday game, and I was like, this is the best I felt about this team really all year. And then they go up 2-0 on Sunday. I'm like, they're going to sweep this series. They're going to do it. They've got me back. And then they find a way to lose that. Then yesterday happens. So, it's
really could have made some money this week, because I would have bet on the Toronto Blue Jays on Sunday. Flick calls me a blasphemy. Well, you're entitled. I mean, well, here's the thing. I'm a YouTube channel. I'm a Mariner YouTube channel that doesn't say nice things. Am I like everyone else? No. And if I was, I would be less noticeable in some way. Betting on the other team will get you a half-season ban. I bet against the Mariners a lot last year. And put it this way. If Mariners lose, I win money. If the Mariners win, it's reverse jinx.
I told Rooftop before we started this, I actually did a season once for football where I bet against the Seahawks every Sunday. And I just looked at it. I had a buddy, too, that was a Cubs fan that actually bet against the Cubs in the Marlins series in 03. And I took the strategy from him. He goes, either I win money or my team wins. So either way, I'm going to leave. I mean, I
always leave happy with something.
Yeah. I always rooted for the Seahawks to win. I did not want them to lose, but I took it like if they lost, I got $30 at least out of it or something. So no matter what, there was something positive to take away from each game.
Yeah, but this guy, he disagrees a big time. Oh, looks like the Angels lost. Honestly, I'm not concerned about the Angels that much because they're pretty much in hopelessness. Oh, we got Starks. Hello. Hit that subscribe button. Help me get some quarters so I can go to an arcade.
You're not speechless, Flick. That's impossible.
Oh, Sleepy. I got Snoqualmie Casino. That's where I go. This guy does online because he's in Arizona. But let me say this. Ever since the Jared Kelenic injury, the Mariners have actually played a little bit better. They have been 4-2 since that injury. And it reminds me of a long time ago when Ken Griffey Jr. suffered that injury with that wrist, that amazing play at center field. And when that happened, Randy Johnson fell down. Their hope was lost. They were thinking the Mariners were going to fold. But Randy Johnson said something, and he was reflecting on this season. He goes, yeah, when we were talking as a team, we had a couple choices. Either we can just fold and just wait till Griffey gets back and we'll lose a lot of games, or we could just believe in ourselves, work with what we have, and try to at least stay afloat until Griffey comes back. And that's exactly what the Mariners did in 95. And as soon as Griffey came back, the rest was history for that run in September of 95. And what's happened now is Jared Kelenic, and it looks like his ETA is a little bit sooner than expected. So maybe if the Mariners do play somewhat good-ish like they are right now, maybe they'll be ready for Jared Kelenic's return. But the one thing I will note, Mariners slightly have struck out maybe a little bit less with Jared Kelenic's departure. Now, I'm not saying that he's no good to the team. He's a clutch guy, but something that Mariners can salvage and take advantage of is the slightly limiting strikeouts. I would have to look it up and see if that's true. Yeah. But when you have anyone else but Jared can't strike out any more than he could he? Unless you have Taylor Trammell, who knows? But things I've noticed is when teams face adversity, especially an injury to a key player like Jared Kelenic, teams are left with two choices. Either just fold and just sell or believe in themselves and keep winning, because I saw a lot of YouTubers out there, including this one guy, I'm not going to say his name. He's like, yeah, the Mariners should just sell and just forget about it. Let it go. I was like, no, Mariners are still in the race. They just got to believe in themselves. Just step up. You got guys like Dylan Moore that can step up. And now you got Cade Marlowe, who at least stepped up today. So just because one player goes down doesn't mean it's the end of the world. There's other opportunities out there. And as decent the Mariners farm system have, someone can step up.
Yeah, and you never know who it's going to be. I mean, how many players around the league are guys? I mean, there's some great prospects that were top prospects all the way to become great players. There's other guys that were, maybe more mid-level prospects to become great. Maybe Cade Marlowe is the next, good starting outfielder for this baseball team. Maybe I can't think of anybody top of my head right now. I'm not going to compare to the Griffeys and stuff, but maybe he is an everyday player that's now getting his chance. And injuries can do that. It allows people to step up. I remember last year when the Mariners were really banged up and Taylor Trammell came up. And in my videos, I talked about maybe he is. Now, it turned out to be not the case. Trammell's continued to struggle. But at the time, I was like, you know what? You never know. You never know where great players are going to come from. I mean, I'm trying to think of the roster right now. But, I mean, there's always guys around the league that are not considered top of the line necessarily prospects. And Marlowe wasn't considered a bad prospect. Maybe he is somebody that can take an everyday job. Maybe he is. Maybe it's the spark the team needs.
What happened to Jose Caballero when he was called up? We were like, who's this guy? Maybe he's there for a couple games to give Colton Wong a breather. And look what happened. He's at least somewhat contributing, steals bases, he hustles, works the count. And maybe Cade Marlowe could also be that guy to help at least keep this team afloat and at least keep them relevant in the playoff race. And hopefully Mariners can win those games against the Twins, win tomorrow against the Twins, play decent against the Diamondbacks, and before that trade deadline, please have them buy, because if they stand pat, they're not going anywhere. So
Definitely
hopefully they'll
can't
be in the
stand
better position to buy for something. And if I were to be the guessing man on, and I think we should talk about that. If the Mariners get into a buying position, where in the positions do you think they should prioritize?
Yeah, and I 100% think they should buy. Even if they did drop out of it, I still wouldn't have said this team should sell, because outside of like, I would have been fine with selling some of the relievers. I'd be fine with that. I still am. Like, if you can get something for some of these guys, I'm okay with that. But you should still be buying in the process. I think middle infield, I think you've got to look at second base and try to find somebody that's a legitimate everyday player there. I mean, they've tried the stopgaps with Colton Wong, with Adam Frazier. It's not working. You need a legitimate player there. I think you can kind of maybe buy and sell bullpen pieces. Maybe there's an arm out there you like and you can sell high on somebody, get somebody else in. Flick says manager. I will also say starting pitching. Starting pitching is one of those things I don't think you can ever have enough of. And I mean, in terms of this year, like, Brian Wu and Bryce Miller, I know Scott, I think, or Jerry said that, I think it was Jerry, that Wu's going to pitch through the rest of the year. But I think some starting pitching depth wouldn't be the worst thing either. And if you can add a starting pitcher at the trade deadline, then in the offseason, you have a lot of starting pitchers that maybe you can deal for a bat as well. So you have more trade pieces there. But I would say in terms of long-term pieces, middle infield would be my first, second base primarily.
For instant impact, some of my opinions are going to be very unpopular, but the popular one is, of course, is maybe looking for someone somewhere in outfield and second base. I think second base could at least be salvaged right now, because at least Dylan Moore is starting to heat up a little bit. You can use him in second base. At least Colton Wong is clutch in the last 2 games. So maybe if he's being utilized a little bit better, like maybe have him bunt once, just use him as a bunting decoy guy, because at least he didn't screw up on that. And you got Jose Caballero, who still hustles and works the count. But outfield, I think, is that's the thing. Like, can outfield should be looked at? I mean, I still do, because even, let's say, if Jared Kelenic comes back and he's back to where he is, but you can never have too much depth, because that means you can move someone into DH spot, give Mike Ford some rest, give Ty France some rest. Like, it'll give you some more things to work around, and you can never have too much depth.
Nope.
And starting pitching also, I think, should not be at least ignored, because if you have Bryce Miller and Brian Wu being a little bit taxed on this season, then you can move them into one of them into the bullpen.
Yep.
To limit their work and get a little bit more established starting pitching that will maybe have some playoff experience. And of course, I would like any kind of a relief pitcher to be traded for this team, because relief pitchers are typically cheap to go for, unless you're the 97 Mariners who had to overpay for Heathcliff Slocum. But I would definitely do bullpen depth, because you can't really just rely on Paul Sewald too much, as if Scott Service really did overuse him. And he did use him in unnecessary times. So if at least you have maybe another decent closer or another setup guy or middle guy, at least that will give you some depth, because the bullpen depth has been having issues. And I looked up their stats. When they are after the 8th inning, I saw that their ERA was creeping to 4, and they were, last time I checked, around 15th in the league in bullpen ERA. Once you add your thoughts into it of what my thoughts on who the trade is, I'll be happy to go over those stats just to prove that I have stats and I'm not lying.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the bullpen. I think it's I think what you have with this bullpen is you've got some very live arms. Someone said grab Bellinger. My only issue with Bellinger, I think he's on a 1-year deal.
He is on a 1-year deal. The guy strikes out too much on a contract year. I don't trust an NL guy going to the AL. I just don't.
I wouldn't mind it if the team was like 7 games up in a playoff spot. I'd be fine with that. I don't want to get a lot of guys on 1-year deals. When I'm talking second base and stuff, I think for rooftop, for the outfield, we're talking more long-term. I'm looking for guys that can help this team next year as well. And that's where I am at with buying. I don't want to buy 1-year guys, because they're not in it enough right now. I'm fine with little pieces, but mutual option in the second year. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to go look up Bellinger more. But to Rooftop's point, the bullpen, I tend to agree. I think the bullpen is a little bit overrated. I think he got some really live arms. Brash, Munoz, Seawald.
Brash has actually stepped up and pitched a lot better than earlier in the season. And now here we are. So for everyone that says Mariners bullpen is the amazing thing, when it's the 9th inning and after, they are actually 14th in the league with a 3.49 ERA, because that's where they give up those runs in the later innings. So the statistics do prove that the Mariners bullpen isn't as elite as the media and the fans are making them out to be, because when it comes to baseball, typical baseball fans, when it comes to that stuff, what's the easiest thing to blame? What's the most popular thing to blame? It's the offense. That's all they ever blame. But they don't, which is fair. Like the offense, it's not even as good as it was last year. And we said last year it was a problem. But if all you're blaming is the offense, like what about the games where the Mariners did score their runs and their pitching still blew it? So I just, because of all these other factors, I think it's a lazy assessment to just say it's the offense. And I just don't expect them to do it. I don't expect casual baseball fans to do nerdy things like I do, like looking at specific stats like 8th inning or later, or when someone was picking their nose at this moment. Like, I don't expect everyone to know that, but it's jobs like people like us doing it for free for the most part. Well, except me, sort of. But it's our jobs to look up those kind of numbers and expose that to all. But yeah, like this is a team game. I don't like blaming just one factor because I don't think it's fair to one thing.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been just offense. Everyone else likes to because it gets the hits. It gets views when people say, oh, offense is terrible. It's the easy thing to do, but they don't look at the stuff I'm looking at. 8th inning or 9th inning or later, they are 15th in the league in ERA.
I think the thing with this team is that, and if you actually look at some of the offensive numbers, they're actually not terrible. I think it's a little bit of expectations. And I've been critical of the offense because they do have moments. I'll say the other thing with this team. It's like when the offense clicks, and tonight they got the W out of it. But tonight's kind of a perfect example. The offense has a great game, and George Kirby can't get outs. You know what I mean? And it's just, and then when the pitching's on, the offense doesn't hit. So it's just been this microcosm of the team. And I'm with you on the bullpen too. I think that you've got some really decent high leverage guys. I think you got some good upside guys, but you go past those three, and Munoz has even been a little shaky the last few times. You got a lot of mid guys like Spire, Topa, Saucedo. They're not terrible, but they're very mid. They're okay.
Topa's the kind of guy you want only if you're up by like more than 3.
Yeah, it's
just to mop things up, basically. He's like the janitor doing janitor's work.
Yeah,
and
he's totally fine. It's just that he's had to be a high leverage guy. And William, I do agree with what you said about cross control players. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm okay.
No, I'm going to say that. Losing Swanson, that's the one concern I had about the Teoscar Hernandez trade. Although Mariners did upgrade, getting someone that couldn't be any less healthy than Mitch Haniger, it did come at the cost of losing Swanson. And if Teoscar doesn't come back with a new contract or at least a 1-year negotiation to be like, hey, let's just give it one more year for the World Series, Blue Jays will easily win this trade because Swanson is still a fan. Let me look at Eric Swanson's number, but he was one of the better bullpen pitchers of the Mariners. His strikeout to walk ratio was absolutely insane when I looked at it in 2022.
This year too for Toronto. I don't know. I could be.
In Toronto, he's 2-2 with a 2.89 ERA, so he is still well contributing. He's not at the same level as he was last year when he had a 1.68 ERA in 57 games, but we could still use a guy like Eric Swanson.
I do think that loss, and it's one of the reasons why people have been more pushing this team to sign free agents. I don't have a problem with that trade, but like you just said, like, it's fine getting Teoscar, but it comes at a cost. Like you lose a really good bullpen piece. So, instead of going out and signing somebody, they make a trade. I'm not against trades, but it's why a lot of people push more for the free agency stuff because you got to give up something to get it. So I don't have a problem with that trade, but I do agree that it's certainly that they're missing that wedge from like those middle relievers to the end guys. They don't really have that. I don't know what the word would be for it, but cleanup person, you know what I mean?
Cleanup person to mop things up, not screw it up. But my other thoughts on that trade with the Teoscar Hernandez trade, at first I was like, okay, great. Now, are we going to fill the void for Eric Swanson? Sign someone decent at least? Nope, did not happen.
We tried Trevor Gott. That was kind of
how did that go? And then and before the Teoscar Hernandez trade, I was thinking, let's go for Yoshida because I think he would have been the most cost-effective player out of all of them. I remember the free agents. There was Brandon Nimmo, Scott Boras' client. You had Trey Turner and like Bogarts. I think those were Boras' clients. I didn't want to touch them either. Would have been too much of a haul for that. But I think Yoshida would have been the safest guy. He was like, what, $20 million per year, which is still considered cheap in today's MLB. But I think he would have been great. And even with Jared Kelenic doing well, that still could have been something where you could just move things around and you wouldn't have given up the likes of a Swanson. And I would rather have Yoshida because although doesn't have the same power as Teoscar, he has an amazing plate discipline. And then I'll look him up right now and see where his numbers are at. But that's the player I thought the Mariners kind of should have at least talked to. Yeah, but here's where he is: 11 home runs, 51 RBIs, 315 batting average, 376 on base percentage. He does strike out more than walks, but 376 on base percentage. Mariners could really use that right now.
And 11 home runs isn't nothing either. I mean, that would be like third on this team. And the Mariners have so many of these walk and home run or just home run or nothing guys. It's why they struggle in some of these close situations because they don't have a lot of just, I mean, I'm going to use a name here. Of course, nobody has a lot of guys like this, but they don't have the Ichiro type guys. They're just spraying base hits all over the place. They're always waiting for that 3-run home run. Now they got it tonight and it helped and it was awesome. But I mean, so many of these situations, the Blue Jays game, yesterday's game, throughout the year where they just need some of those line drive hitters in the lineup to put one in the gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it tends that Mariners still tend to make the same mistakes of just going for power after power, but they don't go for the little guys. And luckily we do have that. We have Caballero and JP Crawford who grind it out, works the count. Yep. They hustle. But we also have guys like Eugenio Suarez, Teoscar Hernandez, even Julio Rodriguez. They're high strikeout guys. And guys like them are the reason why I'm looking forward to prospects like Cole Young. I watched the Cole Young game in Everett last week. At that time, he had yet to strike out. And when I saw him play as a batter, he was really patient at the plate. He wasn't just packing everything. He knows when to swing that bat. So that's why I'm looking forward to the likes of him. And I think he should be considered an untouchable prospect. If the Mariners do trade him, they better get a bona fide superstar for him.
Yeah. And Flick, I agree. That's something we haven't talked about. I was going to mention that. I slipped my mind. First base. I think this position the Mariners might need.
It's an underrated position to look at because Ty France is not what he has been for the last 2 years. If you've noticed this year, the guy just hacks at everything. He shows a lack of hustle. When I'm seeing him run, it's you could have at least made it interesting. And you see, and the camera just happens to catch him at the worst time where he's just smiling at stupid errors. And then you got a manager, of course, that doesn't even let him know, hey, this is not appropriate to laugh at a bad situation. And that's just common sense. If I'm at work, I'm not going to, someone that works in retail has to sell things. I'm not going to just laugh and goof around when things are going like crap. I will only do that when things are going well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And Ty just hasn't been productive. The power is not good enough. And to offset the power not being good enough, the average and OBP aren't good enough. To offset that, the speed is not good enough. The defense, I think, has been solid, but first base is the position where I'm willing to sacrifice the defense for the bat. You know what I mean? I'm okay with a lug out there if they can hit a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's just so weird. And really, and the thing with Ty is, and I see all the comments, guys, and I agree with most of you on it. It's been like a calendar year of baseball now where Ty France has been a very, very mediocre baseball player.
He has been, and it's making it a lot easier to make the decision that if he does go out in free agency, I don't think he'll be end of the world. And if only Evan White was just healthy, we would feel much better about it, but he's not. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, and it's not like the Mariners really have much prospects to even look forward to on the first base end. There's really, let me look and see what any notable prospects that could maybe take his place. I'm looking at Tyler Locklear as someone. He is
Yeah,
22, so maybe someone like him, but he's still an A plus. So
right.
maybe next year if we're lucky. But he's also a third baseman because you got to look at the legs of Eugenio Suarez, who's not going to last forever either.
Exactly.
And he's been lucky enough we're lucky enough to see him finally break out somewhat in the second half of the season, but that's not something you can depend on. And the guy strikes out a lot, but hopefully, yeah. But I agree that looking at first base is a very underrated position to look at too.
And it's such a shame. And William, I agree. They keep busting him inside, not giving him anything to go the other way with. And if Evan White was healthy, it just goes to show how guys can get that opportunity. Like he may have gotten a shot. They may have, I don't know. They're not going to like bench Ty, I don't think, but maybe Evan White is up and getting some of those DH first base at bats, and they're platooning Ford and France at DH.
They would have absolutely platooned. And
Yep.
if Evan White turned out to be what we at least hope, even like half of what we were hoping, then losing out on Carlos Santana wouldn't have been as painful. But instead, we got Evan White, he's just hurt. And maybe years from now, we'll understand why it didn't work out for him. Like we've had prospects out there like DJ Peterson. At first, we thought it was a mystery. Why didn't he work out? Why didn't he even get a call up? It was because the man was just lazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, like I said, goes on behind the scenes and stuff. So big shame about Evan White, because it's funny how he went from he was the first of the big prospects to graduate to the big leagues. And then
he got a contract before he was even called up.
Exactly. And then he had some moments, and then he sort of petered out, and Ty France went from DH to first base. And then we just forgot about Evan
White. And
now he probably would have had a shot this year.
When Ty France was breaking out, that trade with the Padres was looking like absolute genius. And it still is, because you still got Andres Munoz. At least you had a couple good years of Ty France. Maybe he steps up because of the situation right now. And he has been playing a little bit better since he got moved out of the 3 spot, which he should have never been a 3 hitter to begin with. I always thought of him as a 5 or a 6 guy, just like Julio. I'm still okay with him being a 3 to a 5 guy. Just like Kelenic, if he ever comes back healthy, always make him a 3 to a 5 guy. But that's the question. The Mariners don't really have a legitimate number 3 guy that you can have him hanging around. But at the very best, I expect Julio long-term to be the number 3 guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's part of the problem. They really don't have it. I think Ty was 7th. They just don't really have anybody. And it's like, as soon as they move someone in there, they just can't really do it. You know what I mean? I think Cal hit 3rd tonight, and it's just kind of musical chairs.
Yeah, that one, it was a little bit weird. The only lineup decisions that Scott Service has really nailed, and it's something that should have been done years ago, was having J.P. Crawford as a leadoff hitter, which should have been this entire time, because we had stretches where Jared Kelenic was a leadoff hitter in 2021, which I actually believe did stunt his growth, because you don't put a high strikeout guy in the leadoff spot. And then Julio Rodriguez, actually, even last year in his rookie year, I still didn't like him as the 3 spot, because he is more of a guy that drives and runs more than, but he wanted a guy on first base to steal bases, but he can still do that. And plus you want JP Crawford as leadoff, because even if he gets out or strikes out, it took the pitcher like 10 or so pitches to do so. And that's worth it. That's a successful at.
And that was the thing when Julio was in there. I think if Julio everything is clicking, I don't mind him at the leadoff, because you do get that speed there, and that's fine. But man, when Julio's on, he is joy to watch. Tonight, fantastic. But man, when Julio struggles, because he just doesn't take a lot of pitches, like you said. So he's making outs like this, and it's like 2 pitches, 3 pitches, 1 pitch outs. With JP, or at least, like you said, even on the outs, you seem to be getting at least 6, 7 pitch battles and making that starting pitcher work a little bit to do that. So, and Julio just wasn't doing that.
But at least today he finally stepped up and kind of got it right. Now it's really unclear what tomorrow is going to be like, but at least we have Bryce Miller to look forward to. So hopefully Bryce Miller can step up and get the job done. But at the same time, the Twins have another less than 4 ERA guy. So I don't expect really much for tomorrow, which is why I'm going to the casino and even putting my money on a Twins as a favorite.
Yeah, I think it's Joe Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, for the Twins.
I can take a look. And Flick of the Switch is saying Kelnick in France for Pete Alonso. The Mets would completely laugh you out of the door for that. And I'm not willing to get rid of Kelnick. It's Ryan who's 9-6 with a 3.88. And I will say this, I do believe that Jared Kelnick can still be a star. It's just been a really weird season for him where he had that April and even that little bit of a May spark, but then something just happened and it wasn't even the injury either, because that injury was preventable, which I do think that if the team culture was just a little bit better, if there was a little bit more discipline, Jared Kelnick does not do that. Lou Piniella wouldn't have allowed that to happen.
I think it's fair, and I was very critical of it in my video. I said that it was an undisciplined act. It was a selfish act. And, that's a good point. Maybe, that is the culture in the locker room allowing that stuff to happen. I mean, obviously,
the good vibes only can only go for so long.
And obviously, you can't stop it from happening, but are they putting these guys in positions where they're thinking that's an acceptable response to that? And Kelnick's kind of had, I'm not going to say he's had anger issues, but that's not the first time Kelnick's let his emotions get the best of him.
I saw it all the way back in Tacoma where he was playing pretty well, but then he had a strikeout and he just chucked his bat. And I saw that and I'm going to go, and my thought was, yep, as much as I love this guy and looking forward to him, he's going to be someone to deal with. And like I said, I'm not different from him. I have the similar personalities as he does. When I played softball and something didn't go my way, I threw my bat. And there was one time I threw my bat and I actually broke the tip of it and it was useless.
Yeah.
But I at least made sure everyone was safe. Last time I threw a bat, I ran out of the field and then threw my bat. It was still embarrassing. Don't get me wrong. It's not something you should be doing. The only reason it's good to do it because you're letting yourself out, but then at the same time, it's at the cost of exposing your personality and you are losing your respect. And also what's more embarrassing, I was the captain of that team.
Yeah, I mean, I think and Kelnick's got to find a way, and the coaching staff has to help him do it. Find a way you can have those emotions. I respect that Jared Kelnick cares that much.
He cares. He has a heavy amount of passion. But I have that personality. I'm a very uptight guy, and it's because I care and I want something to happen for the good of everyone else. But we need, if we had Lou Piniella, Jim Leland type guys, even Joe Madden, that is not allowed. If even Kelnick even thought of doing that, he would have gotten the talking. Jim Leland would have been no, I'm not going to allow that. Look, how did he handle Barry Bonds when he was acting like a 5-year-old in front of a cameraman or some personal trainer? Jim Leland put him in his place, and Barry Bonds was yep, you were right. And everyone was was Jim Leland being mean to you? He's no, I was an idiot.
Yeah, and some of those guys been listen, when you're healthy, you're not coming back because you let your team down. You made a selfish decision here, and it was I respect Kelnick's and that he answered the questions after it and stood up there to the media and took responsibility. And in fact,
he had the balls to even show up to the media because no one else would have. They would have declined the interview easily.
And I respect that, but he's also he let his team down 100%, and he was starting to pick it back up a little bit. So we'll see, but hopefully Cade Marlowe can fill in and do the job, or maybe
at least for the meantime, so he could at least play some decent bench role. And he does have some speed, I guess. The guy hustles too. So that's some things that I do think that Jerry Dipoto and Scott, they do look at. They are at least good at finding the hustle guys, like the JPs. He's a pure hustle guy. That Gene Segura trade is genius now. I'm starting to think the Mariners, I would say that it was more of a flat. It was it worked for both teams for their separate reasons, but long-term wise, the Mariners, but for their purposes, the purposes were served for both. And then you got, Caballero out of nowhere. Yeah. He's a hustler. And now you got Cade Marlowe, who showed some hustle today. So if we get those kind of guys, which that's what the Mariners need, they need at least a few of those hustle players. Haggerty last year was a hustle guy. Dylan Moore is still a hustle guy. Mariners should have no issue with at least nailing the third spot, as much as everyone wants to say, well, the American League East is too much, or we got Houston that's in the way, or even the Angels are trolling along. But as long as the Mariners take care of themselves, you don't worry about other teams. That's none of your business. What you can control is what you can control yourself. And plus, what is it, July 25th? Still got 2 more months of baseball. Plenty of baseball left. No reason to sell this team. But I just hope they don't sell Paul Sewald, because I keep hearing those rumors, and there's yeah, sell him while he's on a contract year. But I'm like, no, just pay the guy at the end of the season. But if you're gonna sell Paul Sewald, you better get high impact players and some team that's dumb enough to give up that much. The only way I'll give up Paul Sewald is if the other team pulls a Heathcliff Slocum type trade. That's the only way I will support that trade. And plus, this sounds ridiculous, but back in '97, the Boston Red Sox got Jason Varitek and Derek Lowe off of Heathcliff Slocum. Imagine what the Mariners can get out of Paul Sewald from some dumb team. Sometimes that's the other thing in trades. It's not about of course, what you can get. It's about how you get them, which team you can fool. Some teams are desperate to get rid of someone, and they'll pay the high price for it. It's about finding them, and it's basically a sales job anyway.
Well, and you got teams that Arizona, is their bullpen, I think, has given up runs in 18 straight games or something. I was reading. They haven't competed in a while. Maybe they get desperate. They've got a couple guys knocking on the door that would be interesting. And that's the thing. If you trade Paul, I'm okay with it. But I want guys that are coming in here are going to be playing. I don't want guys that are, you should be here in 6 years. You know what I mean?
No, we don't have time for that. If you're trading Paul Sewald, you better get someone. And on top of that, you better make a good, cheap trade for a closer, because as of now, I just don't want to see a Paul Sewald trade, because it would be too much like the Kendall Graveman trade. And that trade, I still don't understand. And of course, the excuse is, well, he was on a contract year. But the Mariners were competing for the playoffs. And that's the problem with having such cheap ownership, is you have the mindset of the scarcity mindset of well, he's going to cost too much. Well, maybe sometimes there are players out there, they are willing to take just a little bit of less pay, just if it means to win a World Series. It's about the art of negotiating for a better deal, not about going cheap, because you can't afford to get too lucky. Yes, Paul Sewald was found out of luck. Swanson was found out of luck. I guess Brash was found out of luck. Yep. You can't rely on that. Paul Sewald and yes, Graveman, they were failed pitchers before, and they tried that with Trevor Gott and Topa. He's a mop guy, but Gott did not work out. And there are times where you just got to spend the money. And when it comes to spending money, it's not like us fans. We're not asking for someone to go for someone for 10 years or whatever. We're not. That's not what we're asking. We're just asking for just a little bit more to get us over the top for some decent players. That's all we're asking. Even Billy Beane was like that in movie Moneyball. When he asked his owners, I'm not asking for a big contract or get me another Giambi or something, or Damon. Just get me just a little bit more to get me over the edge.
Yeah. Well, and then, you make these trades, and it's are you making them because, like I said, I'm fine with trading Paul if you're getting something that are, some hitters that are ready to contribute now, stuff like that. Or are you trading him to get cute? And that was my beef with the Graveman trade. Not against it. I'm fine with trading relievers.
I was against it day one.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I didn't like the return on it. And it seemed like trading Graveman for
Toro. And the only way it would have made sense if Toro became our everyday second baseman, which that's what it looked like at the end of the season, because he was at least clutch, but it turned out he was just a dud, and he still is. So I will say it. I'm 100% against trading Paul Sewald. Because for a team like this, as much as people say, well, we have club control with those players do not last forever. Players regress. So I think the time to win is immediately. And I still think this team, I'm not saying World Series, even though I delusionally think so. I do think they could have won a World Series last year. I do think that. But they should at least make another deep run at the playoffs and do at least better. And look at the teams right now. It's not like everyone's dominant. Houston's been banged up, and they're just starting to get in the groove. Texas chokes in the playoffs all the time usually. like I said, you have Bruce Bochy, so who knows? Toronto chokes. Let's look at the standings. I'm having too much fun with this.
Yeah, go ahead. And Sleepy, I did see your comment. Yeah, Jonathan India would definitely be someone I'd look at for the right price. I don't know all of what that would cost. That is definitely.
I would think the Reds are going to ask for a lot. I'm a little bit surprised that the Reds are trying to trade India when they are literally contending for like the first time in like years. But here's the thing: Baltimore, I can't really. That's the thing. Like, I can't really bank on them for sure being a World Series contender. Tampa Bay has already they've been falling off. They've been 3-7 their last 10. Toronto has been proven to choke in the playoffs. Boston, I don't really see much of them, really. It just there in terms of competition. Yankees, they don't even have pitching, and Aaron Judge is hurt.
Yeah.
Got Minnesota. I think that's beatable if you got in the playoffs with them. Cleveland, well, they're pretty much out of it, but if they're in the playoffs, they have the Cleveland curse factor still. You got, Texas, they choke in the playoffs usually. Houston is not last year's Houston. I'm going to say that. It sounds delusional, but they're not last year's Houston. I can tell you that. Angels will fall apart. And yeah, in terms of American League, it's not as closed as people think. Yes, like a few months ago, it was like it's all Tampa Bay or all Baltimore, all Texas, but not so much, which is why I think selling is just unnecessary. And you look at National League, the only team I'm really afraid of in the National League is really Atlanta. And of course, Miami, because when you play Miami in a traditional year in the playoffs, they always win the World Series. 2 of 2.
And if you're playing Atlanta, you're in the World Series. So at that point, like, you know what I mean? I'm not too worried about the NL.
Atlanta, I would be afraid of. That's the only team I'm scared of. Milwaukee is beatable. I can live with playing against. Now this is looking way far ahead in terms of World Series. Dodgers, they basically have their Scott Service. He's like a not as crappy version. He's Dave Roberts, and I have a friend who's a Dodgers fan. He says that he's basically National League Scott Service, and I keep telling him that every day that Scott Service makes Dave Roberts look like Tommy Lasorda. So yeah, like the competition isn't as fierce as people make it out to be, which is why I never understand why people want to sell, because it's an easy thing to say. It gets hits.
But how far back are the Mariners? How many games? Remember, they're not in, though. That's the thing.
They're not in, but they're not out.
No, they're not. They're not out. They're not out. What are they, 5.5 back, though?
They are 5 exactly, and it could have been around 2 if they won those 2 games.
Yeah. It's just my thing is like, and I'm not for selling. I think they should buy, because I think this team, even if it doesn't get in, I think it can compete next season, honestly.
And you buying prevents others from being able to buy.
Yeah,
because we don't need another 2002 and 2003 where the Mariners allowed Oakland and like Boston and everyone else to make trades. And next thing you know, Mariners were pretty much outmatched by everyone because they didn't make a trade because of cheapness. And if they do that again, I will make a video saying the Mariners just put their season on death sentence.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is stand pat, in my opinion. I would say I'd rather sell than stand pat. I mean,
I don't want to stand pat because at least if you sell, maybe there's hope for prospects. Yeah, but if you stand pat, that means there's no commitment to anything. And that's what 2002 and 2003 was, where they didn't even make an impact trade at all, which is why everyone else basically steamrolled them out of the playoffs. And we were the butt of the money ball of 2002.
Yeah. Yep. Because they just stood there and did nothing. In terms of, I'm seeing people talk about 7.5 in Division 5 in the wild card. I think that's all doable. Just there's a lot of teams that got to climb. That's my concern here. And if they don't start, or just it turned around. Now, hopefully, the good news is, like, the Mariners are a winning streak away. I mean, they almost had it. Like, they should have probably won the last 2 before this. They'd be on a 6-game winning streak. And, I think we'd all feel about as optimistic as possible. It's just this team can't keep doing this, winning 4 in a row, getting us excited, and then they go and lose 3 in a row. They've got to kind of sustain this. And if they can win tomorrow, that's 2 series wins in a row against 2 good teams. Then you got to go to Arizona and you got to win a series. Like, they just have to do that. They got to stay consistent. Like Rooftop said earlier, focus on what they need to do. Right now, don't worry too much about the standings. I mean, it's there. It's hard not to look at. But if you win series and take care of business, then there's a chance. I agree, Flick. I feel like I've been saying the same thing for 90 games now. But the thing is, like Rooftop said, you look at the rest of the wild card stuff. These other teams have a lot of the same problems the Mariners do. You know what I mean? So now the problem is Mariners are 5 games back of those teams, so they've got to make it up. But there are a lot of flawed teams in there. It's not crazy that they could get on a winning streak. And Flick, I know we've been saying all year, I'm not predicting it, but that possibility is still there for them. If they can somehow win tomorrow and maybe they sweep in Arizona, and you've got yourself a 5-game winning streak, and who knows, maybe you're 2 back at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I know you said something about like there's a lot to climb, but I came across a video. Now, does anyone in this video or anyone in the chat box remember the great show, The Playmakers from ESPN from 2003? It was a football show.
I remember that show.
So I found a clip that is extremely similar to the Mariners situation right now in terms of playoff implications. I'm about to show you that right now. And my God, we should probably do a reaction show to something. I'm gonna ask the mic guy, lights, whatever that show is, which I did a major league show with him. All right, I'm gonna play it in just a moment. Here it is. I'm probably gonna get copyright up the butt on this.
Coach, we win our next 2 games. Do we make the playoffs?
We could. If New Jersey beats Boston, Memphis beats Nashville, and we finish ahead of Phoenix in net points in conference games, meaning our margin of victory needs to be at least 18 points more than theirs.
Thank you.
There's also wins within the
Yeah, we get the idea, which is it is way too complicated to figure out. So let me make it real simple for you. We take care of business, and the rest will fall into place.
Exactly. If the Mariners take care of business themselves, which they could have been doing this entire season with if you really think about it, Mariners were about a couple good decisions away from leading the division, I will say. But if the Mariners take care of themselves, they don't have to worry about climbing all these teams. The only thing I look at is how many games they're back from that final spot. That is all what matters. And like I said, if Scott Servais makes better decisions, the offense steps up when they have to, the bullpen holds the leads, they can still make the playoffs and at least make some kind of run because the talent they have and the soul and heart they have when things are going right, and maybe do away with maybe go back to that Darth Vader helmet celebration. I actually like that one. I thought that one was more. I think that was more to the identity of the team. I hate the trident with a passion. I want them to go back to the Vader. Is that thing even the Vader hat?
I think it is, isn't it? It looks like it. It's just colored in Mariners colors, but it is like that, like covering he has over his face mask thing. So no, and it is a really good point. Listen, there's 60 games left. Take care of business. Try not to focus on the standings. This team can win series. Tomorrow's a big one. Win this series against a team that's kind of giving you fits and everything like that. You can find a way to win it. You won the Toronto series. They should have swept, but it is what it is. They won the series. You can keep doing that. You're going to get into this thing. So
yeah, there is still time to go 2 of 3 for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But if you're in September and you're still 5 games back, then yeah, you basically have to sweep the entire season.
Yeah, that's why some of these losses have been so frustrating, because they're probably going to hit a snag somewhere where they're not going to win every series the rest of the way.
No, you don't expect that.
Yeah, so it's like they should have swept Toronto. They should have won yesterday. They should have. I'm sure there's other games that they've had here that they should have won. It's like, and obviously you're not going to win every close game. You're going to blow a game somewhere in the season. But man, there's just been like one of those Baltimore games that they lost, and just 6 or 7 games there. Like you said, I mean, if some of those go the way they did last year for them, they may be in first place right now. You know what I mean? You could probably point out 8 games. I go, yep, they should have won those. And
they really should have. Oh, and looks like it says San Francisco is apparently leading in the Ohtani sweepstakes. I know how to ruin San Francisco for Ohtani. People crap on the streets and they don't clean up. They don't clean up after themselves, and they're not held accountable there. I think that's all he needs to know. But at the same time, Seattle has the same problem too. But it's not as bad as San Francisco. Well, it's otherwise. But at least Seattle knows how to stage an all-star game better than anyone
Yes.
off a crappy city. I don't think LA would have done any better. They couldn't. They
Yeah,
couldn't clean that
no,
entire
it's
city.
not gonna be that much.
Seattle just had to clean a block, and they're
Right.
fine.
He's in LA right now, which I mean is worse. So
It's a lot worse. And
Yeah.
I've been there. Like, I saw things in LA that I never saw in Seattle. That
yeah.
It's too much to say, but man, we still have 16 views. Do you have anything else to say? Because we're an hour into the show, and I know you got to do your daily post thing, so I don't want to hold
I'll do
that.
And Josh makes a good point there. The last 3 series are Rangers, Houston Rangers. I mean, if you go into that series 3-4 back of the division wild card every way, you at least have a chance. You know what I mean? You're at least, if you can take care of business in those games, you will have an opportunity. So it's still there for this team. I have my doubts just how they've played.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but they get that win today, and somehow they find a way to keep me invested. They just do. It's so it's good though. I want to be invested. I want them to get into playoffs. Like I want to watch playoff. Baseball was fun last year. I hadn't experienced it since I was 14. You know, so I mean, it was fun to see it and be involved in it. I want that again, and I do think this team has the talent to do it. I really do. I think it is good enough to go on a streak. Julio, maybe this is the start of it. Julio is good enough to be an MVP candidate player. I believe that. I believe that's in him. Cal Raleigh can get hot. Gino can get hot. I even think as much as he's frustrated, I think Ty France can be better than what he's done. You know, and so
he should have gotten that all-star spot last year because he would still be motivated and be like, hey, I should have gotten that all-star spot. I'm going to prove those haters wrong, but now he doesn't have that chip on his shoulder anymore.
Yeah, and they can make additions, and the bullpen's been up in the air, but I do think there's enough stuff there to make it good, and I think Friday to that.
Oh, yeah, we're looking at Friday, and not only is it potentially the both of us, but our good friend Mike, who has unlimited energy that I don't even have, he is projected to also join that show, which would be great because you have seen me on and off the show several times, so if I'm not there on time, you still got the two of them to basically cover the load, and we can all do our cross things. You can do it off of the Trident. You can do it off of me. So there are ways to, if we had the three of us, worst case scenario, you will probably just have down to 2.
Yep. So looking forward to that next week. If anybody else has any questions, fire them in there. Flick, we know you'll be there. We're looking forward to it.
Oh, when is he not there? That's the bigger question I have for him. But
I think the commercial for Flick.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna do it. I want the Jay Trident to get his YouTube video in there. I got some cuts to do for an hour, and the other thing I'm looking to experiment is doing audio podcast only because YouTube has that. Maybe throw Spotify in there and maybe get some more tractions on the views. But until then, hit subscribe to all of us. And most importantly, hit subscribe to me because it will really help the algorithm. Hit the likes because I do plan to make a special video in August, at least writing the script. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it is in August. And by the time that video is ready, I want there to be as much exposure as possible. So to help that, hit that subscribe button because I want that video to take off as much as all my other ridiculous videos I made. The Yordan Alvarez video, the 2000 Mariners video, the Tino Martinez video, the A-Rod video, and Rooftop Mariner ASMR.
There you go.
I don't even know what that even means.
It's like this thing where people talk real softly and they do like role plays and stuff. It's super popular on YouTube.
Autonomous sensory, I don't even.
Meridian response, I think. There's people that do that have like millions of subscribers. It's like, but they like touch, they like rub things softly. It's I don't know. I'm not into it, but it's
you should try the no commercial live stream. Here, okay. I know, but how about if you give everyone contributes to $50 and I will play it. That's all you gotta do. Just give moolah and I will forego the commercials unless you guys want me to come up with some crazy commercial ideas. Like the other day with me and Mike, whenever I said, well, if Ty France hits an RBI, I'll do 25 push-ups on commercial break, which I did. So.
Oh, we got push-ups. I missed the push-ups. We finally had push-ups in the game.
I did the push-ups. But how about you feel like running a commercial? You do push-ups instead. Yeah. Well, depends on the situation. Like if Colton Wong hits a home run, that's like how many? Like 50 push-ups. And plus, I could use a workout, and I am about 15 pounds overweight, so I could use a good excuse to get a good workout.
Let's set push-ups for each player that they hit a home run. Like Teo and Cal would be like 5. Colton Wong 50, Caballero 65. Like we need to set something for you for each one.
Caballero's worth less than Colton Wong.
Yeah, true.
Like Ty France doesn't hit into a single double play. That's gonna worth something.
Yep.
Oh, Scott Service's bullpen decision actually works. That is definitely worth push-ups.
There we go.
Or man, what else? There's so many possibilities.
I think if we're happy with something Scott did, that's like 1,000 push-ups for you. I think this person on the rooftop goes, wow, I like that. That's like 1,000 push-ups right there.
But you know, I'm always gonna find ways to criticize them anyway. So I don't think that's gonna work. But looks like Oakland
with
lost
decisions. So
Oakland lost. If that was 2021, that would have been useful.
I was gonna say that would have helped like 3 years ago.
Wow, 28-75. That's awful. Make a list, run it by us on Friday. Okay, fine. How about fine? No commercial on Friday. I don't know. And plus, my buddy who runs that business, he's actually overbooked right now. So
it's helped.
Yeah, well, I don't think it helped, but maybe the spirits, the vibes, maybe. But he didn't get the 20%, so whatever. So yeah, I guess we'll do push-up shows on commercial break, dependent on situations.
There we go. We'll come up with something for it. That'll be fun, actually.
That is it for today.
Love you
Triton's got to make his own post game and just crash to sleep. I got some work to do. But thank you very much for being on the show. And we had, I think, up to 20 people watching. So once again, hit that subscribe button to the both of us. See you guys on Friday. Worst case scenario, I'm late. But anyways, enjoy yourselves a good night and go Mariners. Let's go for that 2 of 3.